The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of Para-X, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
All these voices. All these voices. All these things you can't explain. All these painful memories. They keep haunting you and daunting me. It's just the ghost of you and me. It's just the smoke and gasoline. It's just the ghost of you and me. Of you and me.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Staring into the Abyss. I am your host, horror author James Hershey Jr., and with me, as always, my co-host, old boy James Ash. How you doing, brother?
Pretty good, and Happy New Year's, everybody.
Tonight's show is going to be fun. It's one of those science-y shows that gets me really excited. Tonight's episode is going to be about some groundbreaking and, quite frankly, amazing research that's going on by scientists to actually reverse aging. And yes, you heard me correctly, to reverse aging. So we have a pretty long article tonight, so we're going to jump into that first. And then after the article, I'm going to try to break it down for you a little bit and explain some of the things that aren't mentioned in the article, because I happen to know quite a bit about this subject matter. I study it as well, and kind of lay a lot of that out for you. So here's the article first. Tonight's article comes from the MIT Technology Review, and it was under the biotechnology section. The headline is Meet Altos Labs, Silicon Valley's latest wild bet on living forever. And underneath the headline, it states funders of a deep-pocketed new rejuvenation startup are said to include Jeff Bezos and Yuri Milner. It was written by Antonio Regalado, and it was published September 4th, 2021. Last October, a large group of scientists made their way to Yuri Milner's supermansion in the Los Altos Hills above Palo Alto. They were tested for COVID and wore masks as they assembled in a theater on the property for a 2-day scientific conference. Others joined by teleconference. The topic, how biotechnology might be used to make people younger. Milner is a Russian-born billionaire who made a fortune on Facebook and Mail.ru, and previously started the glitzy black tie breakthrough prizes, $3 million awards given each year to outstanding physicists, biologists, and mathematicians. But Milner's enthusiasm for science was taking a provocative and specific new direction. As the scientific sessions progressed, experts took the stage to describe radical attempts at rejuvenating animals. That meeting has now led to the formation of an ambitious new anti-aging company called Altos Labs. According to people familiar with the plans, Altos is pursuing biological reprogramming technology, a way to rejuvenate cells in the lab that some scientists think could be extended to revitalize entire animal bodies, ultimately prolonging human life. The new company, incorporated in the US and in the UK earlier this year, will establish several institutes in places including the Bay Area, San Diego, Cambridge, UK, and Japan, and is recruiting a large cadre of university scientists with lavish salaries and the promise that they can pursue unfettered blue sky research on how cells age and how to reverse that process. Some people briefed by the company have been told that its investors include Jeff Bezos, the world's richest person, who stepped down as CEO of Amazon in July and weeks later risked his life by jumping into a rocket capsule to reach outer space. Technology Review confirmed that Milner and his wife Julia have invested in Altos through a foundation. Altos is certain to draw comparisons to Calico Labs, a longevity company announced in 2013 by Google co-founder Larry Page. Calico also hired elite scientific figures and gave them generous budgets, although it's been questioned whether the Google spinout has made much progress. Calico has also started a lab whose focus is reprogramming. It published its first preprint on the topic this year. Among the scientists said to be joining Altos are Juan Carlos Izpuzia, Belmonte, a Spanish biologist at the Salk Institute in La Jolla, California, who has won notoriety for research mixing human and monkey embryos, and who has predicted that human lifespans could be increased by 50 years. Salk declined to comment. Also joining is Steve Horvath, a UCLA professor and developer of biological clock that can accurately measure human aging. Shinya Yamanaka, who shared a 2012 Nobel Prize for the discovery of reprogramming, will be an unpaid senior scientist and will chair the company's scientific advisory board. Yamanaka's breakthrough discovery was that with the addition of just 4 proteins, now known as Yamanaka factors, cells can be instructed to revert to a primitive state with the properties of embryonic stem cells. By 2016, Pusia Belmonte's lab had applied these factors to entire living mice, achieving signs of age reversal and leading him to term reprogramming a potential elixir of life. The results of such mouse experiments, while tantalizing, were also frightening. Depending on how much reprogramming occurred, some mice developed ugly embryonic tumors, called teratomas, even as others showed signs their tissues had become younger. Although there are many hurdles to overcome, there is huge potential, Yamanaka said in an email, in which he confirmed his role in Altos. Midlife crisis. It's been said that young people dream of being rich, and rich people dream of being young. That paradox is one that people like Milner, age 59, and Bezos, who is 57 years old, may feel acutely. Forbes currently ranks Bezos as the world's richest person, with a net worth of around $200 billion. Milner's wealth is estimated at $4.8 billion. Bezos Expeditions, the investment office of Amazon's founder, did not reply to an email seeking comment. People familiar with the formation of Altos say that initially, Milner's interest in reprogramming was philanthropic. After the meeting at his home, a nonprofit called the Milky Way Research Foundation, sponsored by Milner, awarded 3-year grants of $1 million a year to several longevity researchers. The proposals were considered by an advisory board, including Yamanaka and Jennifer Doudna, who shared a breakthrough prize in 2015 and later a Nobel in 2020 for her co-discovery of CRISPR genome editing. Sometime during 2021, however, a new plan emerged to make the research move even faster by turning the idea into a well-founded company that is now Altos. That effort took shape under the direction of Richard Klausner, the one-time chief of the National Cancer Institute and now an entrepreneur. Klausner, who previously helped start companies like Juno Therapeutics and cancer test company Grail, is known for organizing large and lucrative financial bets on new biotechnologies. According to an incorporation filing in the UK for Altos Labs, Klausner is CEO of the new company. Klausner did not respond to attempts to contact him by email and phone. Like Milner, he also lives in Los Altos Hills. A number of startups are pursuing reprogramming technology, including Life Biosciences, Turn Biotechnologies, AgeX Therapeutics, and Shift Bioscience in the UK, although these efforts have not led to any treatments tested on people in clinical trials. There are hundreds of millions of dollars being raised by investors to invest in reprogramming, specifically aimed at rejuvenating parts or all of the human body, says David Sinclair, a researcher at Harvard University, who last December reported restoring sight to mice using the technique. Sinclair describes the field as nascent, but thinks it has unique promise. What else can you do that can reverse the age of the body? He says. In my lab, we are ticking off the major organs and tissues, for instance, skin, muscle, and brain, to see which we can rejuvenate. Sinclair says he is not involved in Altos, but he did speak at the 2020 meeting and applied for an award from Milky Way. A science business. Altos hasn't made an official announcement yet, but it was incorporated in Delaware this year, and a securities disclosure filed in California in June indicates the company has raised at least $270 million, according to Will Gornall, a business school professor at the University of British Columbia, who reviewed the document. In addition to Bezos and Milner, the company may have additional wealthy tech figures and venture capitalists as investors. Other hires made by Altos include Peter Walter, whose laboratory at the University of California, San Francisco, is behind a molecule that shows remarkable effects on memory. Also joining is Wolf Reich, a reprogramming specialist who recently resigned as the director of the Babraham Institute in the UK after the center said he was taking a job with another research organization, now believed to be Altos. Walter and Reich declined to comment. At least initially, Altos will be funding researchers with no immediate expectation for products or revenues. According to one person briefed by Klausner and Milner, the initial output of the company will be great science. Altos is luring university professors by offering sports star salaries of $1 million a year or more, plus equity, as well as freedom from the hassle of applying for grants. One researcher who confirmed accepting a job offer from Altos, Manuel Serrano of the Institute for Research in Biomedicine in Barcelona, Spain, said the company would pay him 5 to 10 times what he earns now. The philosophy of Altos Labs is to do curiosity-driven research. This is what I know how to do and love to do, says Serrano, who plans to move to Cambridge, UK to join an Altos facility there. In this case, through a private company, we have the freedom to be bold and explore. In this way, it will rejuvenate me. Any treatment for a major disease of aging could be worth billions, but Altos isn't counting on making money at first. The aim is to understand rejuvenation, says Serrano. I would say the idea of having revenue in the future is there, but it's not the immediate goal. In 2013, Serrano was among the first scientists to genetically engineer mice to produce Yamanaka factors. They all developed tumors as their cells reverted to an embryonic stage. Still, the work hinted that time could be reversed inside a living animal. You introduce the factors and they do the magic. It's very simple, experimentally, even if it's not understood, says Serrano. The major question now is how to tailor reprogramming to see if it can safely rejuvenate animals without killing them, and whether the process can be carried out using ordinary drugs, rather than via genetic engineering. To me, the Yamanaka factors are not realistic for use in the clinic, Serrano says. They involve the introduction of genes, some of which are oncogenic. This is hard to pass through the filter of regulatory agencies. Some experts say investment in anti-aging techniques is something government funding agencies are unable to do quickly enough. If you see something in the distance that looks like a giant pile of gold, then you should run quickly, says Martin Borch Jensen, Chief Scientific Officer of Gordian Biotechnology. To speed research, Jensen says this year he will be giving out $20 million worth of rapid turnaround impetus grants, using funds from donors. There's a big bet now, Jensen says. It's let's see if reprogramming works. Let's see if molecular clocks can be biomarkers. If it does work, it's going to have a huge impact. Too early. Some researchers question whether reprogramming is a technology that can really benefit from hundreds of millions in commercial investment. Alejandro Ocampo, who used to work in his Pessoa Belmonte Salk lab, is now a professor at the University of Lausanne in Switzerland, is skeptical that reprogramming technology is ready to turn into medicine anytime soon. I think the concept is strong, but there is a lot of hype. It's far away from translation, he says. It's risky and it's a long way from a human therapy. One problem is that reprogramming doesn't just make cells act younger, but also changes their identity. For instance, turning a skin cell into a stem cell. That is what makes the technology too dangerous to try on people yet. Ocampo also worries that there is too much money and too many companies trying to get into the research area. I think it's moving too fast. I don't know if we should have 5 to 8 reprogramming companies. It looks too quick, he says. How many papers have there even been in vivo reprogramming? It's the same as the number of companies. On the other hand, the technique has an indisputable, repeatable effect in laboratory experiments when applied to individual cells. You can take a cell from an 80-year-old and in vitro reverse the age by 40 years. There is no other technology that can do that, says Ocampo. What's more, reprogramming is also recognized as a key process that occurs naturally when a fertilized egg turns into an embryo, and 9 months later leads to a fresh-faced baby. Somehow, the DNA of the parent is scrubbed, renewed, and restarted. After trillions of baby animals have been born over 1 billion years, Ocampo thinks it's safe to say that reprogramming is one of the experiments that has been reproduced the most. Altos will also be working with a related technology for measuring the relative age of a cell, or a person. That biological clock technique, pioneered by Horvath, involves measuring the epigenetic marks on genes. These molecular features turn genes on and off, but their pattern becomes disorganized as people age. Such a biomarker of aging would be an important way to measure the effect of any longevity or age reversal drug that is developed. It's difficult to run a medical study that demonstrates life extension, since it would take too long, but a biomarker could be employed instead. There is also a strong scientific connection between aging clocks and reprogramming, since reprogramming appears to work by remodeling the epigenetic marks in a cell's genome to an immature or naive state. That means Altos will be working at the leading edge of both causing and measuring rejuvenation. Young and rich. Bezos is said to have a fairly long-standing interest in longevity research, and he previously invested in an anti-aging company called Unity Biotechnology. Rumors of the billionaire making a seismic-sized splash into the field have swirled for months. While Technology Review could not confirm his stake in Altos, what's sure is that getting older is on his mind. In his final letter to Amazon shareholders, Bezos included a quote, ruminating on death and decay that he'd found in a book by the biologist Richard Dawkins. Staving off death is a thing that you have to work at. If living things don't actively work to prevent it, they would eventually merge with their surroundings and cease to exist as autonomous beings. That is what happens when they die. Bezos meant that nations, companies, and individuals have to fight to remain distinct, original, and unique. Rewinding the clock to your younger days could be one way to do that. And that is the end of this article. Okay, so basically, they are able to reverse aging in mice right now in the lab. But the problem is these mice are developing the teratomas, the tumors, and it's pretty much killing them, which sucks. And this is happening very quickly. They're only living like a week or two after the procedure. So they're not there yet. They're trying to concentrate basically on the telomeres, trying to extend them because that is linked in with the biological clock and gives your actual biological age. And that's the first thing I want to talk about tonight, is that your age is not necessarily just the amount of times that you've been around the sun. The number of years that you have been on Earth does not actually represent your real age, your biological age. That number moves back and forth. Okay, you can actually slow down your biological clock, and you can even reverse your biological clock. Now, there's multiple different things that you could be doing right now in your life that will slow down that clock and make you actually physically younger than the years that you are now. And I'll get into those here in a couple minutes. But the first thing I want to talk about before I do that is kind of complicated, but I'm going to try to explain it as best I can. And that is your level of ATP in your body. And I'll explain what ATP is, but we have to go all the way down to the cellular level here. So let's look at a normal cell in your body. Basically what a cell is it's a bag that's filled with water. And inside the outer shell of that bag, that cell, is a bunch of liquid. And inside that liquid are a bunch of little tubes that are floating around in there. Those tubes are the mitochondria, okay? Inside the mitochondria, also there are a couple different layers. And inside there are a ton of little protons hanging out. And they're buzzing around and they're partying in there, right? And they want to get inside the inner core of the mitochondria. So they're constantly banging and pushing against the inner cellular wall of the mitochondria. But they can't get in because it's too tough. But what they do is they try to bore these little tiny holes on the inner membrane there. And they release these little things that are almost like, they're little proteins, and they're like, almost like little propellers. And they latch on to the wall and they spin real fast. And they produce something called ATP, is the byproduct of that. Now, what ATP is basically life for you. If your body stops producing ATP, you're dead in like 30 seconds. When you take cyanide, for example, what cyanide does is it stops that process inside the cell. So it cuts off your supply of ATP in your body and you're dead almost instantly. So the secret is the ATP. You want higher levels of ATP in your cells. Now there's several things that people are doing right now to try to raise that level and try to prolong life, because cellular degradation, and especially mitochondrial degradation, has been linked in studies to all kinds of different diseases, all kinds of different organ failures and skeletal failures and cancers and all kinds of horrible things. So it's a big deal, those levels. Now, one thing that a lot of researchers are working on is a drug that's already on the market that diabetics take. This drug is called Metformin, and diabetics take it to make the body's insulin resistance better, so that your interaction with sugars in your bloodstream is a lot better, and your pancreas can make insulin, and your cells can accept the insulin, all that. But the interesting thing about Metformin is type 2 diabetics who take Metformin. First of all, normally a type 2 diabetic is somebody who doesn't exercise a whole lot. They're usually overweight. They don't have the best diet. So their health kind of sucks anyway, because that's why they ended up diabetic in the first place, because they weren't properly taking care of themselves. And their body started having problems with insulin production and the cells not being able to accept insulin. But the people that are type 2 diabetic that are on Metformin, in the studies, they show that those people actually have a longer life expectancy than non-diabetic people who are not taking Metformin. Okay? So we're talking about type 2 diabetics here that are on that drug have a longer life expectancy than people who are in good, healthy shape who do not take it. That is mind-blowing to me. That's amazing. They're not exactly sure everything that Metformin is doing in the body, especially on a cellular level, but they just know that it works, that it does reverse that biological clock and slow it down and actually prolongs life. So a lot of these researchers are taking this drug even though they are not diabetic, and it is helping to slow down that biological clock and to extend their life. Now, saying that, I want to say right now, I am not a doctor, okay? So I'm not giving medical advice here. You do whatever the hell you want with your body and with your medicine, right? I'm not recommending it. I'm just telling you what these researchers are doing. Another thing they're doing is, well, first of all, let me break it down like this to you. Let me tell you, inside your body, there's a bunch of different genes, okay? And there is a gene that the researchers call the longevity gene. And it can be activated, okay? There's more than one, but we're just going to say longevity genes to make it easy. And these genes can be activated by the body. And the trick is to get your body to activate the longevity genes so that that biological clock slows down. And you can actually reverse it to where you're actually getting younger instead of getting older biologically. That's going to lead to a longer lifespan. It's going to lead to much better quality of life long term. So how do you do that? Okay, how do you activate those longevity genes? Well, there's several different things you can do. The first thing is exercise. And I know that that's like beating a dead horse. That's like a broken record. You've heard that a million times in your life. The doctors are always telling you to exercise. But I'm going to break that down a little bit more for you and explain it to you. Exercise is extremely important, but it's not just normal exercise that we're talking about here. Okay, it's not just walking, for example, or something like that. You want to exercise to the point of hypoxia. Okay, hypoxia is when you're out of breath, when you're like trying to breathe, right? That's what you want. You want to get hypoxic. The reason for that can be traced all the way back to our earliest ancestors. Back in the old times when we were cave people, way back then, your body on a genetic level would react to stimuli from the outside world. So it reacts to what you're eating. It reacts to the amount of exercise you're getting, the amount of rest you're getting, how hot you are, how cold you are, all those things. And one of the problems that we have as modern people is we are way too soft. We have went on a journey throughout our lifespan as a species to where we have developed technologies that have made our life a lot more easy and made us very, very comfortable. So we're not cold anymore. We have heat now. We don't have to worry about fighting off as many diseases because we have fire. We can boil water. We can cook our meals. Pretty much from the first time the first man picked up a stick and used it as a tool, we have started on this journey. And our body has gotten weaker and weaker as the generations have gone on because we don't need to be as physically strong anymore because we have the ability to create tools and technologies that make our lives easier and help us to survive. Now, the problem is, although our mind has gotten stronger, our body has gotten weaker, and there is no going back. So we can't go back to how strong we were in the beginning because we're on this track now. There's no reversing it. And we have created a lot of problems for ourselves with the technology that we have developed. And the only way out of that, we're not going to get any stronger. The only way out is to create new technologies to solve the problems of the old technologies, which will in turn create new problems that we'll have to create new technology to solve. And that's kind of the path that we're on, and there's really nothing to do about that. But what I was saying about the body on a genetic level responding to stimuli of the outside world, when we were cave people, when we were back in that time period, our body would activate these longevity genes when we went through hard times in order to help us to survive long term. So when we were cold, for example, we were developed to be cold, right? We would go through summer where it was hot, winter where it was cold. So our bodies are adapted to be cold during the winter and hot during the summer. Well, now everything's kind of a normal temperature because we all have heat, we all have air conditioning. So we're never really that cold and we're never really all that hot. I mean, yeah, you go outside and it's cold and you go to your car or whatever, then you turn the heat on and you're fine. When we would get very, very cold in the winter, our body would activate the longevity gene. When we would go without eating for long periods of time, our body would activate our longevity genes. When we would exercise and become hypoxic, which is how I started this whole rant, our body would activate our longevity genes. And what that did was help us to fight disease, help us to fight all these little bacterias and viruses and all these things that screw us up and make us live a lot longer. We would go into survival mode. Well, nowadays, we don't have all those stresses and strife in our life. We have overcome all of those things with technology. And the problem is our body is not activating our longevity genes very often. So basically our body thinks, hey man, we're full. We're rested. We don't have to worry about getting hypoxic. Nothing's chasing us. Let's party. Let's divert all of our energy into reproduction. Let's have a good time and let's make babies. And we're not worried about long-term survival anymore. What we need to do is trick our bodies into thinking that we're still having a lot of these problems that we used to have, so that our body activates these longevity genes, and that will extend our lifespan by slowing down and in cases even reversing that biological clock. Now, the ways that you do that is you have to recreate the life that we lived back then. Now, I'm not saying go out and hunt a woolly mammoth, but what I am saying is trick your body through vigorous exercise. I'm not talking about like the Rock's workout, okay? I'm talking about running for like 10 minutes until you're really out of breath, 2 or 3 times a week. That's all you need to do. And that will get your body hypoxic, and it'll trick your body into thinking that you're being chased by some kind of predator, or you're trying to hunt down game by chasing it down or whatever, and your body will activate those longevity genes, and that will slow down the biological clock. Another thing you want to do is you want to be cold. I know that sounds crazy, and I know that sounds counterintuitive to a lot of people, but remember, we were designed to be hot in the summer, cold in the winter, and our body reacts to those extreme temperatures by activating the longevity genes. So what we want to do is we want to recreate that. So it's okay to be cold. Maybe at night, don't put on a cover and just kind of be a little chilly. Now, you don't want to be hypothermic. You don't want to be sitting there with your teeth chattering. That's not what I'm talking about. But you want to be cold during the winter. During the summer, maybe don't turn your air conditioner on as much. Go outside more. Deal with the heat. In both of those cases, your body is going to turn on that longevity gene. It actually works better with the cold than it does the heat. So if you're one of those people like me that just does not like being hot, like in the summertime, I want my air conditioner down as low as it can go. I want to be cold. So I like to be cold. And that's very good for you to be cold, because that activates that longevity gene I was talking about. Another thing you can do is intermittent fasting. You don't want to be eating all the time. Me personally, I don't eat breakfast, and I rarely eat lunch. Usually my first meal is either dinner or in the late afternoon is what I like to eat. If you eat like once a day and you wait a good amount of time before you do it, your body is going to be tricked into thinking that you have a shortage of food. So what that's going to do is going to turn on your longevity genes, and you're going to go into survival mode, and your body is going to be a lot better long term. Another great byproduct of intermittent fasting is if you're a person that is diabetic, or you're a person that has insulin resistance, which is like the stage of pre-diabetic and before pre-diabetic, where your body is developing insulin resistance, because that can go on for several years before it actually shows up on any testing to where your doctor says, hey, dude, you're about to have diabetes, right? So if you're one of those type people, then intermittent fasting is great, because when you don't put any food into your body does not create insulin. So what causes insulin resistance is too much insulin being produced in the body, and your cells can't cope with it. It's too much. So your cells just start blocking insulin. They just say, get out of here. We don't want any more. And your body develops an insulin resistance, and that can lead to diabetes and all kinds of horrible things. So by doing fasting, you're not creating insulin for long periods of time, which gives your cells a chance to kind of process all that, and it'll actually improve your insulin resistance. And actually, you can reverse diabetes and all kinds of things through fasting and better diet. Another thing you want to do is avoid sugars. Avoid bread, avoid sugars. You can eat meat, you can eat vegetables, that's fine. You can even have starchy vegetables if you want to. Just try to avoid putting processed sugars into your body and a lot of bread into your body. And you're going to lose weight. You're going to be feeling great. So that's another thing you can do. You also need to get good sleep. Now, that's one for me that's very difficult. I don't sleep much. I sleep a couple hours a day, and that's about it. I'm not a person that needs a lot of sleep, but that hurts you long term. You want to get whatever sleep your body requires, you want to get that sleep, right? And it's different for everybody. Some people need 8 hours, some people like 9 or 10, some people can get by on 5 or 6. You know, some people like me, 4 or 5 is plenty. But whatever the amount of sleep that you feel rested and good at, you want to be getting that kind of sleep, because sleep is when your body repairs itself. All the way down to a cellular level, your body repairs itself when you sleep. So it's very good to get that time for your body to rebuild itself. And you want to have nice, good, uninterrupted sleep if you can. That's a good thing. For me, like I said, that's a tough one. I don't sleep very well. I have a lot of nightmares and stuff, and I'm not a person that's ever really needed a whole bunch of sleep anyway in my life. But that's one other thing that you definitely want to do is get a lot of sleep. I talked about being cold. Another good thing is to be hot during the summer, because remember I said your body's used to being hot in the summer, cold in the winter. A lot of people are doing like time in a sauna, to where they'll sit in a sauna and sweat for like 10, 15 minutes, half hour or whatever. And that extreme heat will actually also activate the longevity genes in your body. Now, in the future, once this technology has been perfected and they've worked all the bugs out of it, you will get to a point to where you can literally turn back time. I know that sounds crazy, but you'll be able to turn back the biological clock to where you can actually take like your biological clock back like 20 years or something. It's going to be amazing. The technology that they're working on right now, once they perfect it, is to where they will be able to give you an injection. And that injection will actually contain gene therapies and stuff to where they can activate it. And the way they're going to activate that is through taking a pill, right? So you take the pill and it activates the injection that they gave you, and it'll actually turn back your biological clock by several decades. And then you live out the next 20 years or whatever, and then you start getting older again. You go in and you get another injection and take another pill and it activates it, and then you're good to go. And I know that sounds like science fiction and it sounds crazy talk, but that is what they are working on right now in the lab. And it is fascinating research. I've actually read some of these studies and some of the papers that they've released on it, and it is amazing. It's not perfected yet. They haven't gotten past the point of the testing on mice and stuff yet. They haven't got into clinical trials with humans or anything, because there's still problems that have to be worked out. In this particular case that from the article today, they're all the teratomas that are forming in the mice that are killing them. That's a very bad thing. But they have figured out that they can actually reverse aging. And once they perfect it to the point to where they can control it, it's going to be absolutely life-changing. It's going to be amazing stuff. One of the byproducts of this research is also extremely interesting, and it has to do with the ATP and the mitochondria that I was talking about earlier. The pill that they're working on now, as a side effect, like a byproduct of this research, is like the ultimate weight loss pill. And it's going to be amazing, because what it actually does is, on a cellular level, it blocks some of the energy production that's going on. And so your body continues to make more and more. And so what that means is that you can actually eat a ton of food and not gain any weight, which is amazing. It actually has some grounding in history. A lot of the men went off to war, and they needed somebody to work in the factories and to make the bombs and all that kind of stuff. So they brought in a bunch of women to do the job, because all the men were off to war. And they noticed that these women were all really, really skinny. And they ate like crazy people. I mean, they just ate so much food. But they were always so skinny, and they couldn't figure out why. And they tested them, and they actually found out that there was a chemical in the bombs that they were making called DMP that they were taking in through breathing. And this chemical did what the pill that they're working on now will also do, and it blocked that energy production in the cell, and these women could eat anything they wanted and not lose any weight. And they actually started producing a pill of DMP that they could give people and that they would lose a ton of weight on this pill. And it was amazing, and it worked wonderfully. But the problem is the byproduct of it on a cellular level is it creates heat. And they didn't really regulate the dosage very well, and people had that thing that most people do where they say, hey, if one pill makes me lose weight this fast, then 3 or 4 pills will make me lose weight 3 or 4 times as fast, right? So they started overdosing themselves on this pill. And what ended up happening is on a cellular level, it's producing heat, like I said, and it produced too much heat, and it killed some people. And everybody freaked out and said, oh my God, people are overdosing on this drug, and it's the worst thing in the world, and people are dying, and we got to do something about it. So that's actually why the FDA was created in the first place, was to regulate this medication and take it off the market. And from then on, all medication had to go through the FDA in order to get approval to make sure it was safe. And that's why the FDA was actually formed in the first place. So this technology has already worked. So what they're doing with the pill that I'm talking about now in the labs is they are figuring out a way to activate it through the pill that they take after the injection. And once it reaches a certain point, it's going to cut itself off. That's what they're working on doing. What that'll do is prevent the overheating on a cellular level that was killing people back in the 1920s or whatever. So once they perfect that, you're going to be able to actually just take a pill and lose weight. I mean, for real, like not infomercial style, but like actually have a pill that really makes you lose weight, and you'll be able to eat anything you want and it won't matter. You won't gain any weight. Now, you still don't want to eat nothing but banana splits because all that sugar is going to cause insulin resistance and other problems, but you won't have to worry about getting fat anymore, which is pretty amazing because obesity leads to a ton of different diseases. So that is the breakdown of the science behind the study that we were talking about in the article, and a lot of the other science that's going on right now in the longevity field, the anti-aging field. And there's some amazing people that are working on this stuff, some amazing scientists who are very, very smart and who are doing groundbreaking work. And like I said earlier, I know that this stuff sounds like science fiction, but it is actual science fact that is taking place as we speak. And I would say within the next 5 years, they're going to make amazing discoveries and leaps and bounds in this research. And you, within 5 or 10 years, you really could be looking at a situation where you go in and get a shot and then take a pill to activate it and turn back your biological clock by 10 or 20 years. So you could look at a human lifespan of hundreds and hundreds of years, which is going to be amazing. So that's the science. I'm going to throw over to Old Boy and get his opinion on all this and see what he has to say. And then I will be back after he is done. Old Boy, go ahead, brother.
Thank you, brother. And Happy New Year's, guys. The first show of the year. We've been gone for a couple of weeks because of reasons. Here's something I'm going to say. And James might not like this one about Metformin. I used to have diabetes, guys. 2 years ago, I got really sick. I never took Metformin because Metformin also causes cancer, also causes liver damage, also causes problems with your stomach and your kidneys. I took vitamins, exercises, and quit my diet by not eating a lot of sugar. He is right about that. Get sugar out of your life. You're going to naturally have sugar and everything, but you have to cut it. Like breads, candies, stuff like that. I don't eat it anymore, hardly at all. I didn't want to go on Metformin because it causes a lot of problems. I have friends who've died from Metformin. That's the only thing I'm going to say about Metformin. I know it might do all this stuff, but it also has bad side effects. I didn't want to go on Metformin, so I didn't do it. And I haven't. My doctor is surprised because I got rid of diabetes the way I did. It's can always come back if I go back to the way I was. But I didn't want to take metformin. I know what it does. I used to be a dialysis technician. It kills your kidneys. It can cause but that's with every medicine, guys. But metformin is one of the if go look it up, is one of the top 10 dangerous drugs you could take because there's a lot of bad side effects. That's why I was like, it does do what he's saying, but metformin also has a bunch of side effects. I didn't want to be on it. I refused to be on it, and I never went on it. But there's also, it does help people. But it helps people who don't want to change their lifestyle. So that's why they'll keep eating and getting the way they are. A lot of people I know on metformin are still heavy. They still eat the same way because it keeps their blood sugar down to a point. But over time, it's going to eventually get you. Yes, you will live longer, but you'll lose your limbs. You'll be on dialysis. You'll be sick. I have had family members who've been on metformin died because they either had liver issues, they had kidney problems, or they lost their legs, or they got infections because they didn't change their lifestyle. I did. It was a battle, guys. Like, I had to change my whole life. Now, this whole living forever thing, and, I believe that 100%, guys. Like, who wouldn't want to live another 100 years as a 20-year-old, but you're 120, 150? I don't want to live 150 when my body's 150. You know what I mean? You seen how people are at 100, 110. You're living. That's it. I don't want somebody taking care of me. Now, if it could age me back 10, 15 years, that'd be wonderful. I would love not to have back pain anymore. I'm in my 40s. So is James. We would love to feel like we're 20 again. The problem is I don't want to live forever, guys. I don't have no desire for that. There's some people who just don't want to die. They want to live 100, 200, 300 years. That's for them. Even if it changed my body, I don't want to live for that long. I've already had a nice life, and I don't want to die today or anything. I'm not saying that, but I see it could help people. But I always know there's going to be a side to it where it's not. There's always going to be somebody who wants to use it for another reason to live forever. Over thousands of years, people will have this thing that if you're going to live forever, you get to see everything. And I think that's because people are afraid of death. That's why we have all these people trying to make, go back in time, not go back, make your body go back to being, like, say you're 40 and it takes you back to being 20. But what the real goal is, people want to live forever. There's people who are just so afraid of dying. It's a part of life. Everybody's probably feared it. I've feared it when I was a kid, but I've got to the point where I don't want to live forever because I don't think that was what we were meant to do. I think it's your time. You're done. You had your time. Some people can't handle that, though. And they think they should just prolong their life. Okay, you prolong it for another 100 years. What are you going to do? We're just going to keep having more and more people here living forever and ever, and 20, 30, 40 more years. But you got to realize the population's getting blown up as it is. Just imagine people living another 100 years. There's side effects of people, downfalls to things that people don't realize. It's great. It can help people. It can help you with aging. I get that. That's cool. I have no problem with any of this, dude. The point is, animals age. Cats, dogs, humans, everybody does. You're just only going to get so much time. And I think a lot of these people who do this stuff is because they don't want to die. And I get it. A lot of people don't want to. I mean, I don't want to die. I mean, it's going to happen. I hope it doesn't happen anytime soon. Later than sooner. You know what I mean, guys? But I just, after, like vampires, a lot of people, let's get into it. A lot of people love vampires because of being immortal. But, like, if you ever seen it, after thousands of years, they're tired of the world. They get bored. It's like, you have a piece of gold, right? You got all this money, you can do whatever you want. But after so many times of going out to dinner, buying this, buying that, it still just becomes something that's now you can get all the time. People lose interest very fast. You'll come back to it sooner or later, something like baseball card collecting, football games, cards and stuff like that, and Pokemon cards, or going out riding a bike. But eventually you're going to get burned out and you want to do something different. But later on in life, you'll go back maybe. I'm just showing an example. Because I'm going to be honest with the science stuff James does. He's a genius, guys, and I don't know a lot about this stuff. I know what he's talking about. I'm not an idiot. But I don't know about blood and all that. But I do know certain things about metformin. That's why I was like, eh. But it could be used in a good way, then that's fine. But, if it helps people get, if you use it right and stuff, but there is bad side effects to metformin. I won't take it. And I didn't. My doctor is, like I said, still surprised I did my sugars down. I kept being who I didn't want to get sick. I didn't want to be on medicine forever. Any kind of medicine, it doesn't matter. Eventually your side effects are going to get you. It's going to take your body down. It doesn't matter. Your body can only take so much of it. That's the problem. People are relying on medicine again. I proved you don't need to. That doesn't mean it's going to work for everyone, guys. There's some people's bodies are different. But you do exercise the right way, like James says. You drink a lot of water. You don't eat a lot of... You can eat bread, guys, but don't eat it like, eat a whole loaf of, bread and a French bread. A lot of people don't realize is I eat a lot of sourdough and wheat. But I don't really even eat wheat that much anymore. I eat sourdough. For some reason, with diabetics, sourdough is not bad. I don't know why. It's just something about it. But I don't eat candy bars. I don't buy regular soda anymore. I don't drink sugary drinks, orange juice. I don't drink any of this stuff, man. I drink water, tea. Once in a while, I'll have a Diet Pepsi, guys, Dr. Pepper. It's not that bad, but I don't drink it all. That's my one thing I gotta quit because I've gotten rid of everything. I used to smoke. I used to drink a lot. I hardly drink. You have to have something in your life or it's boring. I'm sorry. But I don't eat candies and crap like that anymore. I don't eat a lot of red meat. I walk. I eat oatmeal for the last 2.5 years now. That's all my breakfast is, guys. Oatmeal and peanut butter. And the peanut butter is natural peanut butter. It's not like regular peanut butter. I eat a lot of natural peanut butter with not a lot of sugar in it. And I'll have maybe a piece of toast once in a while. I used to eat sausage too once in a while for, you can eat a lot of, like he was saying, you can eat meat all day and lettuce and stuff like that. But that's how I changed my life. It doesn't mean everybody's going to do this, but I tell people to do this. I take cinnamon supplements, cinnamon pills. That helps with your sugar. That's what I take every day. A cinnamon pill and vitamin C in the morning with oatmeal. And I'll eat a salad, or if I get something, I'll get like a veggie burger or something like that, guys. Once in a while, I'll go out and get something to eat, like a taco here and there. But most of the time, my wife makes us dinner. And it's really good. Either meats, chicken, fish, stuff like that. And I drink a lot of water, guys. So, but I think it's a very neat subject. I'm not against it or anything. I just never been a fan of living forever, but that's just me. That's my personality. But I think it's great. I think it's good if people want to live. I just think it's playing. You're basically playing Mother Nature now, and you're not really supposed to. So it is what it is. There's always going to be good and bad. I guess it will help people, but I don't know. I just don't want to live another 100 years. That it just would, unless of like we're on the moon or something, that would be cool because then I could see, if we got into space. But just think about it. We don't do that another 100 years here. That's not fun to me. I just, now if we're going on space and we're going out there, then dude, I'll live 500 years, 1,000 years. That would be great to go over the place. That's where I'm cool about it then. But I think we're running out of time now, so because we didn't have a lot, because this is a long episode. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw it to James. That's just my opinion, brother.
Old boy is 100% correct about metformin. That's why I said in the beginning when I started talking about it that I'm not recommending it. I'm just telling you that this is what some of the researchers are doing, what they're taking. But he is right. There are side effects. It has been linked to cancer. There's a lot of bad stuff that also takes place with metformin. So the disclaimer is that with any kind of medication, talk to your doctor, blah, blah, blah. Make sure that you're on the right page and you have all the information. But that is what some of the researchers are doing because they're finding that it is reversing the biological clock. I hope that you guys enjoyed this episode. It was a very interesting subject to me. I'm a big science nerd, so I'm into these kind of things. My field isn't biology. My field is actually astrophysics, but I'm fascinated by the idea of reversing aging and how the body works. So I'm into biology. I like it, but it's not my field. But I have studied this some, and I think it's fascinating. So I hope that you guys have enjoyed it. Let me know down in the comment section when this show hits YouTube what you guys think. And as always, it is up to you to make up your own minds. And I'm going to throw back over to Old Boy real quick and get his sum up and shout outs and everything, and then we'll wrap this thing up.
Thank you, brother. I want to thank everybody for listening to us on ParaX Radio on Sundays and Tuesdays for the best of. We haven't had a show for about 3 weeks. We've been down under the weather. You know how it goes. In the holidays, we figured to take a break. So we're back now. Happy New Year's, guys. You want to follow us and listen to all our shows, go to James Hershey's YouTube page and follow us. Subscribe. If you want any merchandise, he'll tell you where to go. Shirts, all kinds of cool stuff, COVID masks, whatever you guys want. And we can make it for you. Just remember that. So this year, I hope everybody's being safe, being careful. That's all that matters. And I hope you're having a good time with your families, guys. So have a good night, Misfits, Sugar Ladies, Monster Lovers, and Demon Hunters. I love you, and blessed be. Just so you know, a lot of big things are coming our way. And it's going to get a lot better. And even James knows it. I'm not going to talk about it too much because you never know what's going to happen. Things happen. There's stuff that we were supposed to do, and things have happened. Rocks get thrown, but the people who wait for patience are the ones that always come out with the gold. So just remember that, guys.
The YouTube channel is youtube.com/James Hershey Jr. That's where everything is. That's where all the episodes of Staring into the Abyss, the radio show, go. That's where all the episodes of Tales from the Abyss, the TV show, goes. I do a show called Paranormal News on there that covers all kinds of different topics like this. And it's just a great channel. And there's like almost 1,000 videos up now. Just tons and tons of cool stuff. It's 100% free, so go subscribe and enjoy it. The merchandise store, in the description box of the YouTube videos is the link to the merchandise store so that you can go and get shirts and all that kind of stuff if you guys want them. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. It is really, really, really good to be back. I really miss talking to you guys. And I will catch you on the next one. Until I speak to you again, love many, trust few, and do harm to none. God loves you, and so do we. Bye-bye.